speaker is the ever-charming Dmitry Nikolayev. Dmitry tonight will be speaking from the Confident Communicator Manual, project number 5, Your Body Speaks, not as it's written on the form, we've changed it. And the title of Dmitry's speech is Those Chess Players. Those chess players, Dmitry Nikolayev.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a chess grossmeister, let me ask you, my fellow grossmeisters, have you ever played chess? Please raise your hands, those who have. I'm glad that you are familiar with this wonderful game. Tonight, to draw your attention to this fantastic intellectual game, I will tell you some facts about the 11th World Chess Championship, held in 1972 in Reykjavik, Iceland, which is referred to as a match of the century between notorious Bobby Fischer, the challenger, and Boris Spassky, the Russian World Chess Champion. Let's check Bobby Fischer's CV first. From 1957 till 1967, he won 8 US championships. Bobby ego swelled. He became demanding and made life hell for tournament organizers. He asked for more money. He checked weight and size of pieces. The chessboard should not make noise when he moved them. He was sure that if he played chess with God, it would be a draw. I must tell you that Bobby Fischer was not a abecedarian. He was not, and he was not a nerd either. He was a tall and handsome guy. Young girls in the USA and Russia were wild about him. However, he was a very reserved person. As for women, after his first visit to a whorehouse, he proclaimed, "Chess is bad." He changed his attitude to women later and even fell in undivided love. When Boris Spassky wrote a letter to President Bush in 2004 asking him to release Bobby from the jail in Japan, where he was locked up after having been deprived of American citizenship, in particular, Boris asked Bush either to release Bobby or to lock up Spassky himself in the cell with Bobby and give them a set of chess. Bobby answered that he would prefer a company of a good-looking Russian female chess player instead. In 1972, Boris Spassky was the world champion. To compete with him for the title, Bobby Fischer declassified a series of best Russian chess players. He was 29 years old. Before the tournament, he played several games with Spassky and never beat him. To prepare for the game, Spassky had a team of coaches and unlimited government support. Fischer didn't have a coach at all. Now, don't let me go down, because I'm going to share a classified information with you. Boris Spassky was not a nerd either. When a state inspector was sent to check Boris Spassky's training process in a luxurious summer apartment provided by the government, he found a deck of poker cards, a set of domino, expensive cigars, and alcohol on the table, and 2 drunk blonde chicks under the table. I'll tell you what, those chess players were 2 of a kind, those Spassky and Fischer. Thousands of fans and journalists descended upon Reykjavik on the 1st of July 1972. But when the opening ceremonies took place, one man was missing. There was Boris Spassky, the champion. There was American ambassador. There was the president of Iceland. But Bobby Fischer, the challenger, was in New York He was renegotiating the agreement. Bobby didn't want to play for the lousy $125,000 and wanted the prize fund to be doubled. Just for your information, the prize fund of the previous tournament was just $8,000. Later on, for this section, Boris Spassky called Fischer the trade union of all chess players. Bobby Fischer agreed to fly to Reykjavik only after a British businessman doubled the price and Henry Kissinger, the Secretary of State, called Fischer and told him get his ass to Iceland and beat Russians. Fischer arrived in Reykjavik and the championship began on the 11th of July 1972, 10 days later than announced. First game, plain blacks, Fischer showed an excellent defense until he took a pawn with his bishop. Even a beginner knew that in such a position the bishop was going to be trapped. But Fischer, considering himself the best of the best, decided to play a risky game for a win in a draw position and failed. After the first game, Fischer complained about cameras being noisy and demanded that all cameras should be removed, as well as the first 7 rows of seats for the audience. Icelanders refused. He punished them for non-compliance and didn't show up at the second game. Only the second call from Henry Kissinger had a sobering effect on Fischer, and he continued the tournament. Boris Spassky agreed with Fischer's demand to play the third game in a small ping-pong room without audience. I bet that for such a handsome prize, Boris would agree to play with Fischer even in a restroom. Fischer won this game. It was the turning point of the tournament. After this game, Spassky defeated Fischer only once. Lost 6 games to Fischer and 11 games were draws. Fischer became the world champion and the hero of the United States. In 1975, he was scheduled to play with Russian challenger Anatoly Karpov to defend his title. Fischer made 178 demands. Authorities agreed with 177 demands. In his last demand, Bobby decided nothing less but to change the tournament rules. The demand was rejected. Fischer didn't compromise and forfeited the championship. Bobby Fischer died in Iceland, where he was granted citizenship. He left a detailed instruction on his funeral ceremony, according to which only 3 chess players were to be invited, and Boris Spassky was one of them. Boris Spassky is still alive. He lived in France and came back to Russia recently. Ladies and gentlemen, play chess and cultivate love for chess in the souls of your children. My name is Dmitry Nikolayev, the best speaker of all time. And you, you make your own choices. If you know speakers better than me, listen to them.